Hello, my name is Yasir. This presentation analyzes how Australian business can use ABS data to support staffing and sales planning decision in 2026. The main business problem is whether firms should expand, maintain, or slow their staffing and sales plans during changing economic condition. I use three ABS datasheets: GDP, unemployment, and CPI. The two main economic frameworks are economic growth and unemployment, while CPI is used as supporting context. I also use Excel tools including charting, forecasting, and pivot charts, and pivot tables to turn the data into practical business recommendation. My main argument is that business should follow a cautious growth strategy rather than hiring aggressively. This side explains the business problem and the data set. Australian business needs to make staffing and sales planning decision in 2026. These decisions are important because hiring too quickly can increase labor costs, while hiring too slowly can limit business growth. The data set comes from the Australian Bureau of Statistics. I use GDP and national accounts data to measure economic growth, labor force data to understand unemployment, and CPI to understand the inflation pressure. The ABS data is appropriate because it is official, recent, and directly connected to the selected economic frameworks. A key accuracy point is that GDP is reported quarterly, while the unemployment and CPI are reported monthly. Because of this, I compare both economic trends rather than claiming exact month. The first economic framework is economic growth measured through GDP. GDP is useful because it shows whether the overall economy is expanding or slowing. For businesses, stronger GDP growth can suggest better demand conditions, higher sales potential, and more confidence for planning. The Excel chart on this slide shows GDP growth using ABS national account data. The latest ABS data shows GDP rose by 0.8% in December quarter of 2025 and 2.6% through the year. This means Australian economic was growing. However, GDP alone it's not enough to justify aggressive hiring. A business still needs to check whether households have income, stability, and purchasing power. The business implication is cautious growth planning. Firms can prepare for demand improvements, but they should confirm sales growth before increasing. The second economic framework is unemployment. Unemployment is important because it affects household income, confidence, and spending. If unemployment rises, some consumers may reduce spending, especially on non-essential goods and services. The Excel chart on the slide shows that unemployment trend from ABS labor force data. ABS reported that seasonally adjusted employment increased to 4.5% in April 2026. This shows that labor market conditions were softened than the GDP data alone suggests. So even though the economy is growing, business should not assume demand will automatically be strong. The business implication is that firms should avoid overhiring. A better approach is flexible roasting, stage requirements, and productivity improvement until stronger sales evidence. CPI is used as supporting context. In this analysis, CPI matters because inflation affects real purchasing power. When price rises, households may have less money available for spending. This can make customers more price sensitive. The Excel output on this slide shows CPI and inflation trends. ABS reported that CPI rose by 4.2% in the year to April 2026. Housing, transport, and food were major contributors. This is important because these are essential household costs. When essential cost increases, consumer may delay purchases or choose cheaper alternative. For businesses, the implication is careful pricing and cost control. Even when GDP is improving, firms should forecast demand because cost of living pressure can weaken customer spending. This slide explains the Excel tools used in the analysis. The first tool is charting. Line charts help show GDP, unemployment, and CPI trends clearly. This makes the information easier for managers to understand. The second tool is growth rates and forecasting. Growth rate calculation shows how indicators change over time. Forecasting provides a simple forward-looking estimates that can support planning decision. The third tool is pivot tables and pivot charts. Pivot tables summarize the indicators by year, while pivot charts make the comparison easier to interpret visually. These tools are useful because they turn raw ABS data into decision-ready information instead of only one describing that data. Excel helps connect economic trends to practical business decisions such as staffing, budgeting, sales targets, and risk control. This is main decision slide. The key insight is that business should not read GDP, unemployment, and CPI separately. The strongest analysis comes from combining them. GDP growth suggests that the economic is expanding, which can support business confidence. However, unemployment shows softer labor market conditions, and CPI shows that household budgets are still under pressure. This is main because the safest business response is cautious growth, not aggressive expansion. If a firm only look at GDP, it may overestimate demand, but when unemployment and CPI are included, the risks become clear. My recommendation is that business should maintain moderate staffing growth, use flexible rosters, and apply stage requirement. They should also update sales forecasts regularly before increasing labor hours. To conclude, the ABS data supports a cautious growth decision for Australian business in 2026. The economy is expanding, but unemployment and CPI pressure mean business should not overcommit to labor and cost growth too quickly. The best decision is evidence-based, flexible, and regularly updated. This analysis is directly relevant to a business analyst or workforce planning analyst role. These roles require the ability to collect data, organize it, and create Excel outputs, interrupt economic indicators, and explain recommendation clearly. At the start of the unit, I may have viewed GDP, unemployment, inflation as separate statistics. Now I can connect them to a real business problem and use Excel tools to support practical decision. Overall, this presentation shows the better business decision come from combining economic theory with structure.